Welcome back, losers, dorks, nerds, geeks. We are going to initiate you into our manly cult. Actually, I heard Tristan was trying to join Hustlers University and get a PhD. So we're going to try and talk him out of that tonight because we have this book called Clown World. And he's even doing the mudra. Why are you casting magic spells on us right now?
This is my normal position that I normally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's mewing. He's mudraing. We've got Jay. We've got Tristan. We got a lot of good feedback last time about the show that we did about parasites. And tonight we're going to try and deworm your brain from Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate cult. And we read this book called Clown World, 4 years inside Andrew Tate's Manosphere. Welcome, Tristan.
Thank you, guys. It's
How
an
are you?
honor to be here.
Do you got a Honda Civic? Do you got a Honda Civic?
Yes. That is the most attractive position, according to science.
But does he have a Honda Civic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bugattis.
Bugattis.
Yes.
I just want the audience to know that I'm a very high value man, just so you know.
Okay.
How much
like
Bitcoin do you own?
Well, I mean, my sexual marketplace value is not even measurable in the amount of market cap that Daddy Coin has.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, sorry to burst your bubble, tater tots, but it looks like this cult is just a mix of 007, The Matrix, Fight Club, Kung Fu, and Dungeons and Dragons.
Right up my alley.
Yes. If we can...
Wait a minute. Is that bad?
If we can talk Jay and Tristan out of going to man camp tonight by showing just how cringe this stuff is, then we will have success. And we're going to try and deworm your brain, because last time we were talking about parasites. And these are mental parasites that worm into your psyche and breed and have little parasite babies. And then you get, what?
STDs?
You exit the Matrix. What are you talking about? Where you get out of the Matrix?
Brainworm.
Matrix STDs.
The Tate sphere puts in your brain about women, about money, about jobs, about... Well, okay, so
it sounds to me like you're basically trying to brainwash us back into the Matrix is what you're trying to do.
Well, yeah, that too. Well, it's weird because this cult confuses members and forces them to question what is reality. And reality is whatever Tate says it is. And that's why you have all these conflicting reports about what's going on with the court case, right? You know, update
That's
us
a good
on
point.
Actually what's going on there.
That's a really good point. Because what we've seen in the last few months is every 4 or 6 weeks, the Tates declare that their case was dropped, that it was dismissed. And this is what they said. It was either yesterday or 2 days ago, that the case was dismissed. They went before the judge, and the judge was just like, LOL, based. These guys are so based, and they didn't do nothing. They're just good boys, didn't do nothing wrong, and the Matrix is persecuting them. Ripped up the whole case and said, "There's zero evidence. There's no evidence here. Where's the evidence?" And the prosecutors were like, "But Bugatti," and he was like, "No evidence. You're gone." And he just patted him on the back and was like, "Hey, can you guys mentor my sons?" And then they left. That's according to the Tates. That's basically what happened, right? But it's actually, I mean, like you said, it's this consistent reality revisionism that's going on.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most interesting examples right now of how, like, people of middling intelligence, because the Tates are not that intelligent. These are guys that are maybe like slightly above average intelligence. And if you look at the criminality, these guys are some of the dumbest criminals you could ever imagine, right? They're bragging about tax evasion all over the place. The UK authorities and the Romanian authorities have both hit them with tax evasion charges, and it seems like a cut and dry case because they're bragging to all their friends on podcasts how cool it is and how you just ignore the authorities when they tell you have to pay taxes. Just keep ignoring them and pretend it's not happening. That's basically their strategy.
Mhm.
And they didn't even set up intelligent money laundering schemes. It was just blatantly obvious of like all their accounts were going through this one chick's name. They personally had access to the accounts. It was really dumb the way that they did this. So these are very very kind of stupid, short-sighted, narcissistic people
Mhm.
that we're talking about here. But it's amazing how if they think if they just repeat this mantra enough, it's gonna like become reality. And it seems like
Well,
the Tates really have built this reality around them through just repetition. What were you gonna say, Jay?
I have a question. So I haven't followed the court cases except for when you've talked about it. So how come they're not locked up? Like what's going on? Why is it still ongoing? What's the,
Yeah, so Romania's legal system, you've got certain barriers you have to get through before a case can go to trial. And one of the most effective things for the defense to do is to try to push back trial as long as possible, especially with this group DCOT that's like like organized crime, money laundering, and they handle human trafficking cases such as the Tates. DCOT gets once a case goes to trial, they have like a 98.5% conviction rate. So the Tates know this. They know that as soon as this gets to trial, it's over. Right now, the case file is something like I think it's like 160,000 pages of
Mhm.
evidence.
Mhm.
And I think over 90% of this evidence has been accepted by the judges and rubber stamped to be used as evidence in the court. And this includes Tate's own statements on social media, which conflicts with what they say. They're like, no, they can't use what I said on podcasts to prosecute me. No, they are using it. His whole PhD, pimp and hose degree program is a part of their proof that this guy not only was a human trafficker, but was actually training his underlings to be involved in the same types of schemes for human trafficking through cam sites and whatnot,
Mhm.
and the deception of women into working for them, the manipulation of the women, the lying to them about the money that they're making, the controlling of their accounts, the controlling of their movements, the controlling of everything to do with these people's lives. So that all this stuff is in the case, but they're constantly saying, and their little tater tots are always online saying, "Well, they can't use that. Tate's just playing a character in all those videos,"
Mhm.
which is it's absolutely ridiculous. Like imagine Jay, it's like Jay just like, "Oh, no, I was just playing a character, pretending to be reading all these globalist books all these last 20 years, right? Like I'm just pretending to
I
be." The
mean,
like I'm just pretending to really be debating. Like I actually don't really debate or know anything about,
anything,
debating Roman Catholics. Like
anything.
this is kind of like what they're trying to say. So one of the most effective things for the defense to do is to delay, delay, delay. So
Mhm.
what's happened this time is the same thing that happened a month ago, where DCOT, the prosecution, has been told by the judge to fix certain things in the case file in order to stick with the procedural necessities of their legal system. And there are three things in specific that they told them to fix this time. One of the more difficult ones was a procedural thing with the way that the two women. Now, the Tates don't like to talk about this, but there are two women that are involved in their case as well of human trafficking. So they're saying, oh, they're just persecuting us for fighting the Matrix. Well, there are these two ladies, one of them with which Tate was always saying was his witch. Like he
Mhm.
called her his witch. I think that was like Georgiana or Luana. There's two of them, Georgiana and Luana. And one of them worked as a police officer before she worked with Tate.
Mhm.
They had access to corrupt police officers and access to knowledge that the Tates were going to be arrested, which is why they warned them. So like there's a lot of this is going to come down to like there's going to be possible I don't know if they have racketeering there like they do in the U.S., but there's forming an organized criminal group is one of the charges that these guys are being charged with in the second case, which is not the case that they're talking about now. But one of their so-called bottom bitches that was helping them with the human trafficking and with the manipulation of these women and the control of these women she was a police officer and was feeding them information from the inside that she was getting from, she was a former police officer, and she was getting information from current police officers. So all that's going on. Uh, and so there are all these little facets to their case. And what the Tates are trying to do is delay. So the last couple of months, they've declared victory and said that the case was thrown out. It wasn't thrown out. The judge gives it back to prosecutors to fix certain irregularities. One of them in this one included how the processing went for the two female defendants that are defending themselves along with the Tates. And they have 5 days to fix these errors and bring it back to then try to get it to trial. And what the Tate's defense is doing is constantly trying to find ways that, well, there's this irregularity and you didn't cross this T or dot this I, therefore you have to send it back. And what they want to do is delay it long enough to where the statute of limitations runs out. Then they have to either come with a new trial or they're hoping they could skip out of the country. But it's very unlikely that's going to happen. And that's for two reasons. One reason is that they're going to be extradited to the UK as soon as Romania is done with them. Romania has agreed we are extraditing them to the UK for RAPE charges that they're going to be dealing with in the UK. I think there's 4 or 7 women, and they're going to be dealing with that. They also have money laundering and no, I'm sorry, tax evasion that they have to deal with in the UK as well. But I don't think they're going to be extradited for the tax evasion thing, but it's the violent crimes that they're being accused of by these women that they're going to be extradited for. So that's one thing. And then there's also a second case, which includes the youngest victim of 15 years of age in a new case that involves forming an organized criminal gang, which is also this dude bragged about on his Twitter all the time, posted pictures of him with known mob guys from Romania and bragged about being associated with them and making these casinos that they were using. Basically, they were like 7-Eleven style casinos that Tate was opening. And he ran this scam where he was telling his followers, like, you can own part of this casino and we'll pay you in crypto so you never have to pay taxes. It was just so obviously illegal. And he was bragging that, oh yeah, I'm doing this with the mob here in Romania. One of those mob guys' name is Eddie Power, and he was arrested and charged, and I think he might be in prison. I'm not sure if he's in prison yet for these charges because the Romanian legal system is sluggish, right? But Eddie Power was charged for child video, audio, like that type of material, right? Child exploitation material that is illegal. That's what he's charged with. And there's photos of the Tates hanging out with them and, doing their little mudras with these guys. So they're screwed in so many different ways because they've got this other case coming. And what a lot of people who have been following this closely are saying is that what's likely to happen is actually the worst case scenario for the Tates. And that is DCOT's going to come back, combine the two cases, the first case and the second case, which is more damning, and the second case, which DCOT was investigating for far longer. They had like a year and a half to really build their case, build their file on this. And this includes them trying to bribe officials from prison because they have the transcripts of the phone calls that these idiots were making from jail, trying to bribe politicians and officials. These guys are just the stupidest people you can imagine. They literally think they're in a mafia movie, but like don't. It's like they only watched the first act of Goodfellas and didn't watch the third act where everyone's screwing everyone else and everybody goes to prison. So yeah. So anyways, I'm sorry for the long rant. Basically, long story short, the Tates are full of it and they're lying and telling everyone their case is dismissed. The case is not dismissed. It went back to prosecutors so they can fix irregularities, and they have 5 days to do it. And it's likely that in 5 days they will combine those two cases. And then this is going to sadly probably drag on for a long time after this because now there's going to be a new case. The Tates are going to continue to try to obfuscate the legal process and delay in hopes that they don't go to trial. Because if they get to trial, it's over for them. 98.5% conviction rating once it gets to trial. So they
Oh.
have to delay it or get it thrown out somehow by catching the prosecution slipping, basically. That's their
Mhm.
best bet to try to do.
And it seems like their best defense is just continuing on with this tailor-made reality that they have come up with in their real world, and we'll get there in a second. But so that's where we are now with the case. So let's go back to kind of like the beginning of the top G. He comes from the Manosphere, the MGTOW, the pickup artist. He's like the archetype I'm thinking of is Tom Cruise from Magnolia. Remember Frank T.J. Mackey?
Yeah, Frank T.J. Mackey. I based most of my life on that character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Scientology, especially with Tom Cruise. I know you're a big
I'm big in
believer.
Scientology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Now, let me make a point here, which I always want to note that Tate is not part of MGTOW. MGTOW ends up being incels.
mhm,
That's not the route he went.
mhm.
Tate
So
was
what was there a schism in the
yes, there was a schism. That's
manosphere
what I'm trying
and
to say.
MGTOW broke
I've tried to
off?
explain this. Yeah. So
This is like the great schism of
there was the Great Schism
2014.
of 2011, right? So
Okay.
basically, you have men going their own way and men's rights movement, right? So men's rights was people like Paul Elam, who's like a professor, and I don't even think he was, I think he was like a liberal, but he's like a liberal professor who wrote a book on men's issues, and he wanted to combat men's rights in academia. Or combat, excuse me, feminism in academia, and that became the Arrowhead, what used to be the website. That was all men's rights stuff. That was separate too, but there was overlap with the pickup artist community because the pickup artist people were critiquing feminism. Men's rights issues were critiquing feminism, but men's rights guys, like the professors and the academics involved in that, they were writing papers about how prevalent feminism was in academia and legal issues with judges basically, favoring women in so many court cases, this kind of stuff. So the pickup people were using some of the research and information in that realm, but they're two different realms. And so eventually, MGTOW, men going their own way, gets more and more extreme. And you're going to notice a pattern of a lot of these groups getting more and more extreme over time.
Mhm.
And so what happens with pickup artist stuff, that kind of remains the same type of stuff. There's some people still doing that same type of stuff. But I would say, as far as I could tell, like the Tate element of this stuff focuses on the social dynamic studies of pickup artists, human psychology, that stuff, but they don't have anything to do with the incel community. That ends up being some other thing that's a split off of men going their own way and men's rights.
Right. And but would you say there's overlap ideologically or even like in their praxis of their ideas, right? Like as far as what the Tates promote is essentially a homosexual lifestyle, right? So what the Tates promote is they're a bunch of dudes, they just live with their boys. Women are literal objects to be exploited. Like if you watch the PhD program, there women are just there for you to exploit for money. Like he even says like, well, exploiting women for sex now he's like that's gay. It's really like looking like thinking being enamored with a woman's beauty, that's gay. Living with a woman, that's gay. That's gonna like tank your testosterone, bro. You have to like look at women purely utilitarianistic as like a
That element would
utilitarian.
be, yeah. So the commonality across all the groups is anti-feminism. But the incel groups, maybe about 6, 7 years ago, they actually started migrating towards being very pro sex bot because
Oh yes, okay,
the
that makes
idea
sense.
was that this really solves the problems if we go pro
Yeah.
sex bot. And I've seen
Like
even, I think
VR porn and
I've
stuff. Or
seen
sorry.
Pearl and probably the Tates also. Didn't the Tates say something about sex bots? I don't know if they were pro
Yeah.
or anti.
Yeah, you hear this from a lot of these guys. There was
Yeah.
maybe a few months ago when all these people were like, "It's over, women. Like we're
Yeah.
coming for you, OnlyFans hoes. We're coming for you because now we've got AI chicks that are going to be hotter than the OnlyFans girls, and so we can replace you. And then once we've got bots, then it's all over. We don't need you at
Well,
all.
and
Men are
now
co-"
they're saying that children are safer with GAY men than
yes,
Assault
single
premise.
moms.
Now, yeah, one thing I would say too is another overlap could be eventually men's rights. Some of those people, maybe not the more academic ones, but the more activist minded ones and the incel communities. And only reason I know this because one time I was invited on a big incel podcast. I was like, no, I'm not going. Like why would I want to go? But I
What do they want
checked
you
out.
to talk about?
I
Like
listened to a bunch of the guys'
feminism?
podcast, and it was all the kind of stuff that we're talking about now. He was pushing sex bots. He was pushing PRON. He was pushing uh, actually going to prostitutes. So I'm saying that could overlap with the Tate sphere, given the cam stuff. Do the Tates say go to prostitutes? I don't even know.
Well, they promote that. I mean, that's
No,
like
make
all the
them.
videos they put out. They've
I
got a
know
bunch
that
of
that's
escorts.
the university model of learning to run a cam, but I'm saying like in the guy sphere of some of the men's rights and the incel people, they would say, look, if you're really hard up and you want it, just get a prostitute. Don't go for trying to find a girlfriend or a wife.
Right. But, well, she might hurt your feelings.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really sad because it's like a lot of it just comes down to like eighth grade psychologizing of like this chick was mean to me and she just wants Chad. Like they all want Chad, but I'm not
Well,
Chad.
This is gonna get really weird when we talk about Iggy and his whole paradigm of how he
Iggy
views
Pop.
and yes, Iggy Semmelweis. But so remember when we did that show about cults and we were like top 10 signs of cults or whatever? So this hits like every one of those things because straight out he's already trying to separate people. He's targeting boys, young boys, fatherless boys, boys who are emasculated, right? And
it's all the people that Jordan Peterson first was kind of appealing to,
yes,
but this is a more extreme version of
right.
Like the
everything.
ones that would have gotten annoyed with Jordan Peterson because he's too soy for them.
Right.
They're like
Yeah.
He's just a
they
boomer
want they
who
want more
cries a lot,
extreme.
right?
So he borrows a lot of terminology from the Matrix, and already he is setting himself over and against the world, right? So he is the leader, he has the keys to ultimate truth. He knows women, he knows men, he knows all of this stuff. And everybody else is part of clown world. If you're not in Tate's cult, then they say you have worm DNA. Okay, you're a
Worm
worm,
DNA.
Well,
you're a clown.
that's inner group preference versus the profane people that are not members of the group. That's
Exactly.
every group that
The
sets up
muggles. The
to
muggles. The
use the cult.
normies.
Yeah, to use the cult model. And one point I want to make before Roosh converted, he was talking. I remember this very vividly from about 2018. He was actually talking about studying Osho to learn the techniques when he was still in the PUA
Yeah.
mindset. So I'm assuming that it was kind of going around the PUA circles that, hey, if you want to start your own brand, your group, that's the way that you maximize your, sexual network is through having a company, a brand, or whatever. If you want to cultivate those groupies, study Osho.
Mhm.
That makes so much sense. No, and
This is why Iggy becomes a kind of a model of that.
Right. So, originally people thought that Andrew was some kind of like performance artist like Borat because straight out the gate, he was already saying things that were comically extreme,
yeah.
right? And I even thought that I'm like, this isn't real. Like nobody,
Just rage baiting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And come to find out,
And, and this was what year, like 2018, before he really popped off?
like before Koof, like right
Yeah.
before Koof, and then during Koof is when he like
Yeah.
popped off.
And he was like a crypto scammer back then, right? Like he was doing forex trading scams, and then was like, did he promote like any
I remember
altcoins?
I was on a podcast and he came on. It was a libertarian dude's podcast, and they invited him on right before me. So he was like a guest, like one or two before me. And at that time, he was just known as, because I remember looking him up on YouTube after I was on that podcast. It was a small libertarian podcast in about 2018. And I remember it was like he had a medium-sized YouTube channel, and he was still touting that he was like a UFC slash kickboxing guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, he did do MMA. He did kickboxing, and he
Well,
had some belt in some
there was a
organization.
time period where I think where he was going to do MMA. I know he was kickboxing champion.
Ah, yeah. His
He was
brother had an MMA fight, and he
That
he
was
like
it. And so
tapped
they were
out the
saying
punches. Tristan tapped the punches, and it is only MMA fight.
they were
Which is
saying
like as far as the MMA world, that's the least honorable way to go out in an MMA fight is to tap out the punches.
well, I don't remember there being crypto related stuff, but not too long after that when 2020 popped off, and that was, I think, when he had hired a bunch of people nerds to be like online promoters of pushing out his TikToks. He was like paying a network of people to push TikToks, and that's kind of how he popped off initially, right? That's when he started talking about crypto, because there was the 2020 crash, and then when COVID happened, crypto went crazy.
So
yeah, and in the early days of that, he wasn't some sort of anti the Matrix talk. That stuff didn't pop
That didn't
up for
exist
him.
yet,
That stuff
no.
didn't start till later. So he didn't get into courting the kind of really low level conspiracy crowd until much later.
right.
He was more just he had this aesthetic of manosphere masculinity stuff,
Yeah, he
and he
was
wanted
like,
to just be
yeah, I saw some
perceived
of
as a
those videos
pimp.
in 2018, 19. It was like he was sitting in a room and he'd have a like a glass of whiskey, and he was just talking about how to get your finances right, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but and he was also I forgot. Yeah, he was also talking about the cam stuff and how I had he was bragging about his cam studios, getting the girls, and I think that's when he started to promote his. When did he start the PhD course?
I don't know.
Is it in the
Um, yeah, we'll get to that, but I just wanted to start off in the beginning talking about his primary marketing tool is the cultivation of envy. And that's why you get like he's calling you brokey, he's calling you loser, he's saying how many Bugattis you have. So this is really weaponized covetousness and rolling that up with masculinity, right? So the fight against the matrix is just more capitalism and more consumerism and more like getting cars and women and money and all
Well,
of
it's a lot of
that.
fighting your insecurity?
it's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
lot of externals, and this was
The
a
Matrix is kind of just this blob that you can project all your insecurities onto,
Yes.
and you're like what is the Nietzschean term is the resentment,
resentment.
Right.
ressentiment.
So these two authors of this book actually go to Romania and they go to the war room, the initial meetings of the war room,
Based.
and they are gonna go through this test, the test of your masculinity that
Oh
Andrew's gonna give
no.
everybody, right? And as soon as they get there, he's bragging, like you said, about he said, I'm in real mafia shit. He's saying he's so well connected.
Can you imagine being like an actual mafia, like the actual mafia dudes that maybe he was involved with? I wonder if he's gonna have to like snitch on them or something because those guys, those are like serious messed up people.
Well,
What?
we're gonna find out later on. This is like this is a very large network of mob in Eastern Europe that he's connected with through these casinos. But straight out the gate, he was like on it with the shock tactics and, triggering people in their algorithms. And I figured out that like there's a formula to this. Everybody that I don't know if they all went to the same like shit posting school, but it's always number one, virtue signal, number two, invalidate the experience of somebody else, and number three, blame the victim. And that's what is going to get so many people engaging with your posts. So they take somebody who's had a negative experience and they put it there, and then they just like go after them and get everybody fighting over this. And that's how they.
It's like schoolyard. Like when you look at a group of chickens and one of them's weak, they'll start pecking the eyes out. Like all the chickens will surround it
Yes,
and peck the eyes out, and they'll all just kill and eat the chicken alive. It's almost like that in human behavior.
right.
But you're just talking about rage baiting, right?
Yeah. And so we are looking at how shock is the core of his approach to social media. And a lot of people are following in this formula, right? And you can actually plug it into the virtue signal and validate victim blame and see how many people actually know how to do this. So he's going after specifically kids that watch Star Wars. Back in the day when he was like before he was huge, he'd be like, everyone who's ever watched Star Wars in human history is absolutely dirt poor. No exceptions. Only I can save you. Even watching a Star Wars trailer may leave you homeless on the street with AIDS. Only I have the path to absolute financial freedom.
Sounds like comedy. Like this sounds like a
That's
That's actually
like, is
good.
this a
That's,
Borat or something? And he's like,
that's
sorry for
so
flexing on you
funny.
broke boys. I know you're upset, but you're about to get real
Brokies.
mad. About to take your mama to the dark side. I'ma use force nice and slow. That's right, I'm your father.
What? Literally, yo mama. Not only
Actually
your
kind of
mama, but
funny.
she's coming
I
home with
like that
me.
one.
All you
So
brokies, I'm bringing your mama home. That's so
right.
funny.
He's
I'm dork.
targeting nerdy boys that, you know, don't have a Bugatti, they don't have millions, they're not partying on yachts. Um, and he wants them to enroll into this pimping hose degree. And this war room
Based.
has so much in common with even Crowley's cult, down to the way that they want women to tattoo themselves with the men's names as their brand. So he says, has a girl ever tattooed her name on you? No, it's because you've watched Star Wars. Luckily, I teach you the secrets to the female
True.
mind, not only
Tattooed her name or your name?
the cult leader.
You said her name. You meant your name on
Has a
her.
girl ever tattooed her name on you?
Her name on you.
I don't know
Oh,
why.
he's too dumb to write it correctly.
He
Like
wrote it wrong.
Yeah.
he blew it.
So, yeah, so he's going after Star Wars. He's going after kind of, you know, nerdy, online.
But he's actually right though, because I've seen Star Wars and I don't think there's any. I don't think my name's tattooed on any
When
girls.
you're a brokey, you live in a hut in Mexico, right?
That's true. That is true. Also,
Also, I have
that's
this
also
hat.
true.
So look at this hat.
That's
That's
that's a high end. For
that's a
those
high
brokies
value
who don't
male
know, that's
hat.
a
I have a
high
high
end
value male
vehicle.
hat.
I
So
drive a yeah.
I
he's
drive a Ducat Honda Civic.
you got Mercedes.
Ducat Station Wagon.
So he's garnering support during Coof by being anti-lockdown, anti-stabby, and his target is conspiracy theorists or people who are becoming aware because of Coof, and he is right there at the doorstep ready to swoop them up. So that's when he latched on to fighting the New World Order.
Was this all? Is this all just marketing? Is it just like
Yes.
Yeah, this is
latch
cynical
on to
marketing.
whatever the trend is?
Yes.
Yeah, because if you go back and you look at the first videos, all he's doing in the coof is like, yeah, this is stupid and only affects poor people. I'm rich. Look at me. I could do what I want because I'm in Romania and I'll pay the cops off. Who cares? There was no like, they're coming for, they're going to force their stuff into you. There was no talk about that until
Mhm.
much later when it was normalized. Because half the internet was talking about this, right? Like half of the people on the internet were woke to the whole thing, and he figured out how to grift those people.
Yeah, exactly. So he rolled up a bunch of true current things into a new form of the system keeps you down, man. You know, the whole like it's the man. It's this weird thing that's over there. It doesn't.
It tapped into legitimate sentiment too of people that were becoming really cynical about all this stuff.
Mhm.
And like there's these people are starting to, a lot of people were kind of woken up. I hate that term now, but like a lot of people were kind of waking up to what was going on in that
Mhm.
period. So that was a really good time to grift these people and to pull them into
Well,
scams.
Yes.
it's similar to like what other people have done with political movements. Like Trump
Yeah.
has America First, and then you start a movement. Oh, I'm gonna call it America First, right?
Mhm.
Something like that.
Mhm.
That's a
Or
great idea. I'm gonna do that.
Red Pill, right? Mike Cernovich makes his documentary about men's rights, and the term was just referring to getting truth pilled about feminism, but then it becomes a term that he takes over when the term actually used to just mean understanding conspiracy stuff about the Federal Reserve, New World Order. But then
Right, because we were using the
it
red
becomes
pill
a
term in like 2007,
right.
2008, before any of this Manosphere stuff was
But they're
around.
co-opting terms and trends. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so to fight feminism, he's this like hyper masculine guy, but his masculinity is based on, according to him and his cult, violence. So masculinity is equivalent to violence. And it's like from his own
So
mouth.
it's what's interesting again is it's all externals.
Mhm.
Masculinity is not metaphysically a thing that's created that relates to males and females. It's the externals of what sometimes men are associated with, like physical fitness,
Dominance.
wealth, success.
Yeah.
Which are things that are appropriate at times to masculinity, yes,
Mhm.
but they're not the essence of masculinity. You've got to have something more to ground that. This was Father Moses' critique. I thought it was really good because he was pointing out that all of this is actually just the externals, and it's like a costume or a show that you
Yeah.
put on. And you could be like a gay dude and into all this stuff. In fact,
Yeah,
some
there are tons of gay dudes that
I
act
was
like
gonna
that. I
say
mean,
actually one of the
yeah.
first big men's rights guys, he was featured and promoted, ended up starting a neo-pagan cult, gay dude, pushing for
Yeah.
all this stuff before the Tates.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. Like what Tate promotes is a homosexual lifestyle. He lives with a bunch of dudes, hangs out shirtless all the time, waxes his chest, and slathers oil all over himself, and has a dude film him in these like fake candid videos of him and his bro, high fiving each other and talking, making jokes, and they sit around a table. There's like these videos of him sitting around. They always post the same clip every holiday, and it's like Tate with his shirt off at the head of the table and like 20 other dudes shirtless at the table, and they're all eating, just looking so badly. It's just like the gayest thing you could ever imagine. There's not a single woman at the table, no families. It's just the whole aesthetic is gay club party guys.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. If I didn't listen to anything they said, and I was just gonna look at what Tate, like a couple videos of Tate talking, I'm like, oh, this is a homosexual man. This is a gay guy. That's what I would think.
Yeah, well, his concept of masculinity is super warped. It is equivalent to violence and just consumerism.
So there's nothing about virtues. It's just
No.
vice.
Yeah.
So vice and consumerism, which by the way, a lot of the accoutrements that he identifies are also actually feminine.
Hmm.
Right. Right. Bugatti. It's basically your Gucci bag. You're freaking. You got your four-wheel Gucci bag that you drive around. Oh, cool, bro.
Dudes that I know
Um,
that are obsessed with brands and like that, all that, like it's
right. Guys that would wear like a Mercedes-Benz hat.
no, that's high value. That's a high value man. I don't know if you guys know that, but HVM.
Well,
No, wait, keep going. You were gonna say something insightful before I made a stupid joke.
I
You
was
said gu
me.
guys that you know that are really into like
Well,
brands
I
and
was gonna
stuff.
say, like when you think of a guy that's really into that kind of stuff, you typically think of somebody like metrosexual,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Who's really into oh, I've got to have a perfectly, tailored suit. I've got to have a perfect uh, you know, physique to show off, this kind of stuff. Like all that stuff is externals, and it's very
Skittles coated.
yeah, like in a weird way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Well, the the consumerism stuff really ties in well with his marketing scheme too, because what he wants are people that will fall for the externals, right? Like, so you're weeding out a certain level of intelligence. Like a guy like Jay is never gonna be like a high value man like Jay, who already has a Mercedes Benz hat. I mean, he owns a Mercedes Benz
I'm
hat.
not
Like that's
gonna
an
fall for
exclusive.
your accoutrements trap because
Yeah,
I have it right
he
here.
has it all. I mean, this
I've
guy's
got it
got.
on my
Look at the
head.
books. Those are their first edition books behind him. Look, I mean, look at that. So, but like a guy like Jay's not going to fall for this because you've got depth and substance, right? Like you have a grounded worldview and understand that you should seek virtue. So guys like that are not going to fall for Tate's, especially Tate's early messaging. But he did, I'm sure, going to get into, he did morph the message eventually to turn himself into a freedom fighter,
Hmm.
right? And when it was convenient, of course, he becomes a freedom fighter. I'm the first one, the only one to ever fight against the Matrix.
Hmm.
It's basically what he says now.
So what I want to know, and maybe you're going to get to this, is this early days of the war room. What's the origin of the cult mindset and philosophy? Is it Iggy or someone else?
It's him.
Okay.
Yeah. So the War Room is all about getting this PhD, the Pimp and Hose degree, and their supplementary course, Webcam Dreams. And so once an unsuspecting subject, a woman or a potential girlfriend, has passed the PhD test, she is ready to be pivoted from girlfriend to webcam worker. And this all ties into stupid people too, because they're the ones who are drawn to making money by this type of work.
But so what I'm asking is the war room and
Yeah.
its philosophy and its is it like they want to create a literal cult or like a corporation cult that allows you to set up the crypto thing, set up this cam thing. Is
Yeah.
that what it is?
Yeah. So how they market it is that you will be networking with millionaires, but then you get there and you're being hypnotized by Iggy. I'll get there in a second, and
Like actual hypnotized?
yeah, all of your morals
Nice.
are inverted, they say. So they're selling them the stream. The girls that pass the PhD test is they say a woman has to be so submissive to a man she will do anything he says. So that's what this obsession with submit, submit, submit all the time on social media.
Well, that's why he liked Islam. That has to
Exactly, because Islam even means submission,
be,
right?
yeah, you're a slave.
So what they call a bottom bitch will help you with future recruits, and you have talked about how they use the lover boy method.
Is this just Lane?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
well, Ghislaine was actually maybe even more powerful than uh than Epstein was. I don't know what the inner workings of that looked like, but it seems like she came with the Robert Maxwell connections, maybe brought him in. Who knows? Uh, but yeah, he had two of those, and he always talked about how you got to have a bottom bitch.
I just mean that you find a woman who's going to be the one that's going to recruit the women. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, and
you
handle
have
them.
like a process, like the most submissive one that slave, basically the one with the most slave mentality will be your bottom bitch, and she'll do whatever you say and help recruit other girls and make them more comfortable working for you. Yeah.
But you also have to chisel away at that person's conscience and make sure
Oh,
that they're
it's
properly
all
psychopathic.
recorded
Are
in
they
here.
are they teaching you only to set up a cam operation, or is it for any kind of like for a crypto thing?
Out. This was in like before this is like 2020.
So this is just to create a cam cult.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
then
this is how he always bragged. He said this is how he made all his money. Now he's lying. Well, who knows which way he's lying, but he says, "No, I did that 10 years ago and I just made a little bit of money off that. I didn't make very much money off of it." But at this time he's saying, "I made, $1 million a month off of these hoes and they would give it all to me. I would lie to them and tell them I'm paying taxes. If I want another 50 grand, I'll just tell them I got to pay 5 grand a month of taxes for you. Women are too stupid anyways. They don't understand how taxes work." And he would, basically fraud them out of money and tell them that he's paying taxes. And he's bragging about this in videos that he's publishing online too. And this is all now being used against him in trials about his tax evasion because he bragged about how to do it.
yeah. So in 2022, he becomes like the most Googled person in the world. And every young dude with a phone would be shown Tate by algorithm, right? And the authors of this book, when they went to his test, they were like, all of the guards are wearing matching 007 t-shirts. So he's really drawing off these things of popular culture, Fight Club, Matrix, Dungeons and Dragons, and setting it over against nerdy stuff like Star Wars, which
How's Dungeons and Dragons not nerdy?
I know.
Hey, I
It
used to
doesn't
play
make
Dungeons
sense.
and Dragons. Why are you guys attacking? Why are you attacking me?
Did you actually? You
Yeah.
really did?
Yeah.
Is it fun?
It was fun.
I don't even know. Is it?
Why do you think we would play it if it was not fun, Tristan? I mean, that's like a really stupid question or whatever.
But it's like a card game RPG type thing. Like you
No.
get together like you're playing poker or something. What
No,
is
no.
it? How do you?
No, I played before the era of cards and figurines. So cards is Magic the Gathering, dude. That's what are you talking?
Oh, okay, that's
That's
what I'm thinking
nerd
of.
stuff, dude. I played.
That's actual nerd stuff. Okay.
See, now you're
Dungeons
a
and Dragons is
You're a real
based.
nerd.
Dungeons and Dragons, you're like actually riding on dragons and like liberating damsels from dungeons, right? Like that's what you're doing.
Yes.
Not well, maybe in that
No,
game.
my game.
Not this game.
What game?
Iggy's game.
I'm not talking about Iggy's game. I'm talking about actual Dungeons and Dragons, which was actually fun back in the day before it started getting nerdy. Okay, it was always nerdy, but it started getting bad when they created figurines, and then nerds got into figurines, and then it turned into cards. But role playing it's actually I kid you not, it's actually fun.
So it's like a board game, like you're playing Risk or something.
It's like Risk, except more involved. Yeah.
Okay, it's like high IQ Risk. Okay, I'm sold. Now I'm gonna play it.
level 20 dungeon master.
Elon will be our dungeon master, and then we can be you can be an orc, bard, perhaps, a wizard,
Nice.
of course.
Bard.
Or he gives off orc vibes to me, or bard.
Yeah, I take that
He
as a
gives off
compliment.
bard
I've been
vibes.
told that a lot. I get that a lot.
I can't believe y'all don't know about Dungeons and Dragons.
So 2022, Andrew declares himself the most famous person in the world. And there are other cast of characters in his house that are living with him. One named Cousin Luke, who was an instructor at Hustlers University. And then you mentioned this girl, Georgiana Noggle. When they get there, Tate introduced her as a literal witch, and the authors were instructed not to speak to her. Right?
And that's like, I think that's the ex-cop, or is it the other one? Which one's the ex-cop? Her or
I'm not
Luana?
sure.
Okay.
But then there's one more guy that they come across. So it's funny following the story because they don't know who these people are when they first get there. But then when they go back and find out who they are, there's a lot more juicy stuff. So when they first encounter Iggy, he is just like this guy in a kimono. It says,
Gaze.
American man with a gray wizard-like beard and embroidered silk kimono leered over a computer, barking orders at another woman. We were told not to speak to him either. So they're these are the ones running this webcam stuff. Cousin
But they
Luke,
like intentionally bring him in front of the, don't speak, don't look at that guy. They like bring him up to him, don't look at him, don't talk to him.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, you just brought me into a room with him.
It's a display of power.
Yeah, totally.
Bring him up and like
Just
say,
flex
you see
on
him,
him.
you don't talk to him.
Could I just interject and say that I would request that Jay gets a silk kimono and does all future debates and streams in that kimono.
Totally. Like a sparkly dragon kimono.
Yes. Yes, like
like a weird Prince symbol on it. It doesn't make
like
sense.
what was the scene in Boogie Nights with the drug dealer, like the meth dealer, and they're at his house. That kind of a get up.
Yes.
I'm down.
I like it. So they get there, and these are the people that are chatting with all of the poor guys who are giving all their money to this cam stuff, right? Iggy, Cousin Luke, Andrew Tate himself.
Which also is a little weird and gay that
yeah.
it's guys doing the actual chatting with the horny nerds.
Yes. And they say that Hustlers University back then had 110,000 students that year learning the secrets of wealth creation.
Now, do you think that's accurate or exaggeration?
Who would
Lies?
probably
I think it's lies.
Yeah.
Well, it's a marketing technique too of like you create this. Everybody's doing it, bro.
Yes.
Like you're missing out. It's only there's only limited space.
Yeah.
There's only 10,000
So I'm
spaces
going to
left.
allow you into my crypto Discord, but we've only got about 15 spaces left. And so that window is closing in about 3 hours. If you want to sign up now, I've heard like 50 million videos of these people saying that you got 3 hours to sign up for my Discord to learn how to make money with crypto.
And then once you get in there, part of the wealth creation is just his stupid pyramid scheme of clipping him and sharing his videos.
This is, I was gonna
and
say,
so students share videos of Tate saying controversial things, and if someone registered by your link, you get half the fee. So this is like a pyramid, affiliate marketing, social media, and shock content all rolled into one.
Is that how
you're going to become rich? I promise. Just sign up for my program, and the whole program is just selling people the program.
It's like
that's the
Amway with hate.
No, this is the Don Lapre model. Don't you remember Don Lapre in the 90s? His ad would come on TV and he would say, "I'm going to show you how to make so much money by putting a tiny ad in classified newspapers." That tiny ad tells you basically the ad is for Don Lapre's course on putting ads in papers to make money.
Wow. So it's the original pyramid scheme, like affiliate link
of the modern era. I mean, I'm sure there were old pyramid schemes, but yeah.
They even mention the people who use this model, a guy named Tom Vu, Dan Locke, and Ty Lopez, who you've made fun of.
Ty Lopez is the generation after Don Lapre.
Yeah.
Now Ty Lopez, did he rent those? Like he would rent a house and make a video.
Hey guys, I'm
not
just
even
over in
his
my
cars.
garage next to my Ferrari.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I made my videos making fun of the boomers at the that was making fun of the Ty Lopez ad.
I remember that ad was everywhere.
Everywhere. Hey guys,
I'm just here. Like, check out my Ferraris. You want to come see my mansion? It's like there's 50 bedrooms or whatever. No big deal. So, and he didn't. There was no. In the clip you saw there wasn't even a sales pitch. It was all just the vibe of like, wait, what? What is this? Wow. And then you click, I guess he would sell you on.
I gotta
I don't know,
go.
I
I
never
gotta
got to
send you
click.
some Don LaPree videos, because it's like the '90s version of all that.
Yeah. So they pose with expensive things and they don't actually own, and Tate doesn't actually own all his stuff either. And then the algorithm pushes this to young guys. And then a key component of Tate, specifically his marketing strategy, is to set himself up as the source of true knowledge and discredit traditional sources. And that's why he's always going off about mainstream media, which is true. You can't trust them, but you can't trust him either. So it's like a trap, right?
I mean, these are like marketing basics,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
That's why I was thinking of Frank T.J. Mackey from Magnolia. Like, he's the perfect granddaddy archetype of all of this stuff.
He's the
Um,
best. He's the GOAT.
and now Andrew, now this is really sad, and this is where I just start to get like a little bit of sympathy, like the teeniest smidgen of humanity out of Tate, because he has got some daddy issues, like some serious deep-seated daddy issues, and that's why he appeals to the fatherless. Um, he actually wrote an anime inspired tribute to his late father, who he refers to as Master Po. So if you've seen him tweeting stuff and he talks about Master Po or the Way of Wudan or whatever, this is actually his anime series that he wrote himself about his own father. And they venerate him as a sort of John the Baptist figure to Andrew in the war room. So Master Po is Emory Tate Sr. Do you know that?
No.
This is so crazy. So the cult followers frequently refer to the mythical realm of Wudan and the White Path of Wudan. Have you
Is
heard
that
this?
from this anime?
Like
Yeah.
Wakanda.
Huh? No,
Sounds like Wakanda, yeah.
it's Tate's Wakanda, but he made it all up based on his dad. And I'm going to tell you what Wudan is in a second. Um, but yeah, he wrote this anime that he gives out to everybody. It says Tate's War Room published a comic book set in Wudan, in which stories are written by Andrew Tate himself and focus on the relationship between Master Po and his apprentice as they battle the Matrix, which is Tate's term for the global conspiracy to shut down his agenda to free young men and resist the slave mind. Excerpts frequently appear on social media.
Okay, and what's Wudan?
I'll get there in a second. Well, for right now, it's a mountain. Okay.
Mount Wudan. Okay.
Yes.
Is
And
it a climate?
well, his dad seems super abusive. Like,
He
he
was. Yeah.
has said that civilization is built on the back of children getting hit when they make a mistake.
Now, is
His
that
dad used to show up and just like beat up the mom and then leave.
Yeah.
That's what they say. And then
Well,
they talk about it like, well, that's good because mom was being lippy. Like mom was giving him a hard time, so he
now
should have beat her up and left.
is it confirmed that the dad was CIA, or is this just
He
assertion?
claims it. Yeah, that's another thing. He claims dad was CIA, but there's really no proof of this. He also claimed his dad was a chess grandmaster. He was not a grandmaster.
Right.
He was a high level chess player, but he was never a grandmaster. He he claims that dad was at one time he claimed dad was CIA. Then he claimed his dad was in the Air Force. But his dad was like discharged. I think he got a dishonorable discharge from the Force, and he was and Tate said this that he was dishonorably discharged from the Air Force because he was so smart and just so based and so cool, but the Air Force said it was because he had narcissistic personality disorder and he was a
that's in
total
the book.
nutcase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the book says.
I'm surprised if you're going to make up a legend, you wouldn't just go with that he was sheep dipped and that they pretended to dismiss him, but that's so he could go do CIA stuff.
And he
Yeah,
could
no,
Matrix.
he didn't even go there. He was just like
Yeah.
one time he goes, my dad was CIA. He was the greatest translator and he learned Russian in 3 minutes. He was a genius with a 2000 IQ, and I'm basically even more genius than him. That's kind of what he was getting at. Like, my dad was so cool. He's a secret agent.
Yeah.
He's a freaking secret agent. He
And then
beat
all the
up
like
everybody.
idiot like 16-year-olds eat that up, right? Like,
My dad was a 5-degree black belt in ninjutsu, and he went to they made Kill Bill, and it was about him. because he's like Bill,
Well,
but
he's
also
Master Poe.
No, that's like
Master
Frank
Poe.
Dukes.
Yeah.
Frank Dukes. If you know, do you know the story of Frank Dukes?
No.
You've seen Bloodsport, right, with Van Damme?
Man, I've seen parts of Bloodsport on TV as a kid. So like, the edited version. I never
Well, it's
really.
based on this martial arts master legend who was a notorious fraud. He made up all these crazy stories that, I was a martial arts master and I went to the Kumite because I worked for the CIA as a secret hitman assassin. And then they found that like basically all this is a lie. And he's like, oh, well, it's a lie because they covered it all up to hide my real identity as secret agent. So it's like like the lies always just compound, and like the secret agent stuff allows you to, just make up new versions of the story.
Yeah. I mean, maybe his dad really was CIA, but it doesn't seem what was he doing? He would just go and like listen to Russians talk at chess matches. I mean, his dad was like broke and used to hustle dudes at the park for money in chess games when Andrew
Well,
was a
that was
little
his
kid.
cover, Tristan. Don't you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really doing high
Master
level.
Poe does
Yeah.
everything mindfully.
When you have the secret agent legend, everything can be recast as part of the secret agent operation.
I like that. Actually, I'm gonna
That's what
use
I'm
that,
saying.
man. I'm gonna tell. That's what I'm gonna tell my kids to
You
cover
got to
up the
watch the
fact that I'm
Frank.
just
Yeah,
an
watch the
idiot.
Frank Dukes video. It's great.
Well, he's setting himself up to be a superhuman through trials that his dad put himself through. And he says,
That his dad put him through.
yeah,
Yeah.
not himself, him. He says, I remember he kept me up late for the next week and a half. I'd be up at 6 for school and he'd keep me up till 3, 4 in the morning playing chess. I'd sleep like 2 hours, get up, go to school. I'd come home. My mom would go crazy. Let him sleep, Emory, and he'd be like, quiet, woman. Chess, 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 chess. For about a week, I was running on 2 hours of sleep and he was giving me these grandmaster chess puzzles from a book at like 2:30 in the morning. He says it was part of the myth building the path of Wudan, whereby Tate achieved superhuman status through the suffering and hardship Master Poe put him through.
So kind of like a lot of these types of people, they invent grand stories about their background and their story and their,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're like the sort of the savior figure, the great overcomer. And yes, well, the abuse that my dad, did towards me was all part of crafting, me to be the greatness that I am
Yeah.
today.
And his
Yeah, well, it makes me think of even in the conspiracy world, all the, everybody, all the like the fake whistleblowers and stuff. Like you meet these people and everyone's got this story of like, well, I was in the military and everyone was involved in like the highest level, top
I was the
secret,
highest
crazy
clearance.
alien.
I was at the highest level of clearance. Yeah.
I had diamond
Yeah,
clearance.
Diamond
diamond,
clearance.
yeah, like triple diamond clearance, Bugatti clearance level, triple black diamond. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, that's like a skiing term, dude. That's black diamond
Yes.
clearance. So
Where do you think they
double
got
black
this ski
diamond.
term from? It's from the government clearance.
Right.
Yeah, but all these people, they're always like, the aliens selected me because I'm, not a big deal or anything, but I'm gonna save the universe. They always have this weird schizo story. I
Yeah.
bet Tate's dad like made him play chess with him like 3 times. That's like the
He
three
just
times he
remembers
hung
it
out
that
with him,
way.
they played some chess or something, and he just blows this up into this grand. Like, I was up for 5 weeks straight, and I'm the best chess player in the world at 6 years old.
My dad was MK Ultraing me, and he put me in a basement for 6 months, but he created the genius that I am by creating 54 personalities, which can master. I have 54 different PhDs from my 54 different personalities.
Yes. So his cult leaders in the war room actually think of his dad as some kind of spiritual leader or like a guru, right? And then they went to talk to his cousin, and this is what you just brought up. So, a cousin of Andrew says that we were most interested in what she had to say about Emory Tate Jr. the second. That's Andrew's dad. The cousin explained that he was high IQ individual, but that he lacked day-to-day tools that it took to live a quality life. So he would always be dressed bummy and not showered. She went on to say that her mother enjoyed his company because he was so eccentric, and when he came to town, she'd listen to all his crazy stuff and crazy things he had to say, like being electrocuted. She laughed at the memory before continuing, electrocuted on an escalator while he was spying for Russia. He said, yeah, this is what the cousin is thinking. He says, he spoke Russian fluently. He spent a lot of time there. Tate once claimed on a podcast that his father worked as Air Force intelligence, translating bug conversations, and held the record for fastest assimilation of a foreign language for learning Russian
That's what he
in
was talking
15
about.
days head to toe. Exactly, you just said that. He said Tate said he knew this to be true because he messaged on Facebook by one of his dad's colleagues in the Air Force who claimed that his father learned languages in an inhuman way. On the podcast, Tate goes on to explain that
A boomer on Facebook told me so.
his father was discharged from the military after he was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. So yeah, you got that one right on the.
That was just his
That was
leg.
just his cover.
Yeah, it was his cover.
Right.
That's just what they projected on him because they couldn't break him. They tried so hard to MK Ultra him, but then they realized that his brain was literally like triple black diamond level
Yes.
hardness, right? Because diamonds. They had to give another diamond to rate it. It's quadruple black diamond level hardness of his psyche. So they couldn't break him.
Yes. And then they said the main trait Andrew inherited from his father was being a brilliant fabulist. So like you said, always the bigger story. It's like that movie Big Fish.
Big Fish.
Remember that? He said, more than this, Tate and his father appeared to blur the line between reality and fantasy and make themselves more interesting. In Emory's story, he's an action hero battling Russian agents. In Andrew, he is Neo battling the Matrix. So they've got this delusional messiah thing going on, right? Let's see.
So, now what was some of the stuff Iggy was bringing? You're going into the dad,
right? So I wanted to set up that they think of the Tates as like this guru family. So it's not just Andrew; it's also his dad was the John the Baptist to Tate's Christ, and following in these bloodlines. And they actually think that they're going to be some kind of like secret world dynasty because all the war room members' children are going to marry each other and make them kings. That's that's what they teach.
We're talking generational wealth here. We're talking
Yeah.
like you might be able to. One of your daughters might have Tate as a last name if you play your cards right, like
Right.
in the war room.
Exactly.
high
And
level.
not to mention, these guys both spent time in television. So they're both on reality shows. Tristan was on something called Shipwrecked the Island in 2011. And Andrew was on something called Ultimate Traveler in 2010. So they're already established actors for Channel 4 in the UK. Right. And then the author goes on to say something interesting about how audiences influence the influencer back. And this can become kind of like a feedback loop. And they call it audience capture syndrome. Influencers can become radicalized by their audience. And the example for this would be like people who do mukbang and keep getting fatter and fatter for their audience, right? So
Watch out if you're gonna put this on YouTube. You gotta watch out what terms you're using.
you can't say that?
I don't
Oh.
know, but I'll.
Wait, mukbang is it's like a common term. That's mukbang just means you eat a bunch of food.
Oh, okay. So
Jay's like horrified.
I thought this was like a fetish term.
No, dude.
I'm serious. I thought it was a fetish term. Is it not?
No. Mukbang is like we're gonna do a Carl's Jr. mukbang, and it's I don't know where the term came from. That's what when I first heard.
I don't
like,
know
what is
the
that? It sounds
degeneracy like you guys do. So
it
I
just shows
actually
where
go to you
Jay's
guys
mind
to
is.
know like the dark web stuff that you guys are into.
No, bro,
Tristan's an expert on
it's like
mukbang, I
it's
guess.
just
Like, don't look
people
at his
eat a bunch
search
of
history.
food.
I mean, it literally sounds like some kind of gross East Asian prawn thing. I have no idea. This is something that women in Thailand do. I don't know what it is. Be serious.
I mean, dude, there probably are people that look at it like that, but like Nick Ocado, that guy, all his videos, they're all mukbang videos. He'll go to,
Who?
Nick Ocado, or what is that guy's name? That guy that got all fat. He used to be a vegan, and then he
Oh,
became
I know who you're talking about. He looked like healthy and then now he's like obese because of
dude,
eating.
he would have like a CPAP device on him. He was like a skinny little vegan kid, and then he gained over the course of maybe 5 years or so, he gained like 400 or 500 pounds, and he would make videos where he's like blending like 20 Carl's Jr. burgers and just dumping in like a whole thing
Well, it's making me sick.
of ranch dressing and blending it up and drink it all.
Oh
And then he
no.
would act like a baby and like go like, and pour it on himself and stuff.
This
Dude,
is
You're
this is
disturbing him.
this is some kind of like fetish thing, obviously. Like, what do
bro,
you
you don't watch those videos, Jay? Come on, this is
know?
like the
We
great. No,
we
I'm
watched
embarrassed that you don't know who Frank Dukes is, but you know about this.
oh, so yeah, this is you're trying to nag me for being a huge Nick Ocado fan. Fine, bro. No, no, the reason I know about him is because all the vegan, like the diet
Vegan
video
stuff, yeah.
people, he's like this extreme example of people would use him as an example of eating disorder, of,
Right.
really intense self-harm with food. But you know what's crazy? Just, I mean, this is kind of a side thing. He lost all the weight and over like a year and got all skinny, and then he made a video. He was still publishing videos that he had backlogged and made the year before, lost all the weight, and then published a like gotcha video of look who I really am, you monsters making fun of me. This was all a social experiment or something weird like that. It was very odd. I didn't watch the video, but I saw like a clip. Lost all of his weight. It looked freakishly like normal.
Creating
And
lore is what they say about.
yeah.
we
Yeah.
watched one episode of like My 500-Pound Life in a hotel once, and he still has not recovered from that.
He's so upset. Look
Look
at him.
at
He's like
him.
physically disturbed. He's
Yes,
really
It
can't
actually
take
did.
it.
It did gross me out. It was like some
He's
things
like,
Jay's
talk about that.
actually
Jay
gross.
has like an inverse fat person. What he just like when he sees fat people or thinks about them, he's just revolts.
Well, that show was based around the people who are getting bigger, like trying to get as big as they can. It was just so gross.
Yeah. I
Anyway,
think that's what the Nick Ocado guy did. Anyways, I'm sorry. That's like totally derailed the topic.
That's
Thanks a
okay.
lot, Jay.
I was just trying to make the point that influencers can also become a character of themselves through their audience and being radicalized. And they say that the shaping of a content creator's personality can be custom made for the audience.
I have a theory that when people get super popular like this, they kind of go nuts and they start to think that they're in some kind of messianic role and they start to become a guru.
Yeah. They think that they are actually something special. Like
they
really think
like no, God has actually chosen me to like have 7 million followers and like it's my mission now, and whatever I do, God is speaking to me through me. You know what I mean? Like that's the mindset they get.
and then but the high like the way that all the feedback comes from popularity online, and like all their dopamine is tied into how people perceive you, feedback through the likes, through making more money on it.
Right.
So they become more monstrous and more cartoonish versions of themselves. It's the same thing with like celebrities and what you saw happen with movie stars in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Now you have social media, and people can become like that from social media.
Yes.
Megalomania.
Yes, exactly. That's the term I was looking for.
Well, that's the perfect...
Connor Murphy, like guys like that. Like that's the great example of somebody who just got totally psychotic from, micro fame in this weird little niche.
Well, that's a good segue into Iggy Semmelweis, who the authors met for the first time formally when they were going through this test. And the test was you had to fight a professional fighter in a cage fight, even though you'd never had any training or muscles or anything. So you just like pretty much go in there and get pummeled. So they're going through this war room and they meet Iggy for the first time formally. And they were like, last time we saw this dude, he was at Andrew's house standing in the shadows shooting invisible fireballs out of his hands.
What?
Like, going like that,
He's a Pokemon.
Shoryuken!
Yeah. Iggy was like in the shadows, like, doing Doctor Strange stuff.
Combat.
Right.
Get over here.
Fatality.
Flawless victory.
Yes. So he's in his black
Johnny
tracksuit
Cage.
with his dragon tattoos and his silk kimono. He thinks he's like, master of voodoo.
They think they're like martial arts people. Is that like their
Yes.
master? Okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he has,
By
because
the
he's a
way,
kickboxer too.
That's what I'm saying. That's why Frank Dukes matters, is because the martial arts world is full of frauds. I didn't realize this until Mark Hackard, who's involved in that. He competes in the tournaments for BJJ. He's sending me all these videos over the years of like all these different martial arts masters that are famous con men, and they're like everything from just money con men to like people who think that they're like even Steven Seagal like claims I've worked for the CIA for many years and like all of this weird delusional crazy claims that he has.
Mhm.
So
Who
that
would
world is
play?
actually full of con men.
Who would play if there was like an Andrew Tate Wudon movie? Who do you think would play Andrew?
Mm.
I've got the haircut.
What was Wudon? You would.
I think I should. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to kind of pitching it. Like if there's any producers out there,
Is
I
Wudon
got Bugatti. I
The way of Wudon is about subjugating women.
but what is Wudon? A world?
It's like a mountain or some
And what was
mystical.
the
It's like Wakanda for cam hoes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's based.
Okay. So this test would be held like basically in, Transylvania in the Carpathian
It
Mountains.
sounds kind of fun. I want to go fight Iggy in a cage match and translate.
Right.
Iggy, you fight a
Well,
professional.
but why isn't Iggy fighting? He's the
Yeah, I'll fight Iggy. I'm not gonna
That's what I'm
fight
saying. I want to
freaking
fight
Tate,
Iggy in a
man.
cage match.
I want to fight Iggy, not like a trained
He's a
kickboxer. I want to
decrepit
fight
wizard. He's
Iggy,
not a fighter.
little freaking like 120 pound Sephardi guy. Like I'm down for that.
Gandalf.
Well, their opening ceremony took place at the NATO War Room after a strategic summit was held there in 2004.
What?
Yeah.
It was all
And
bugged.
Iggy leads a guided meditation into a trance using the story of Master Po and the tale of the adept and the way of Wudan. And he also declares that they will all become dynasties. I said this already by intermarrying their sons and daughters. And the way of Wudan also includes like juicy steaks and lots of cigars and highballs and whiskey and whatever.
Did Iggy channel this? Where did he come up with this?
Iggy is a Kabbalist black wizard.
It's like an NLP dude.
Yeah, we're gonna say that in a second. So they're telling him, or Iggy's saying that Emory Sr. has created the perfect man in his lifetime achievement. They call him Master Top G, Master across all sigils. So already we're talking about ceremonial
Well,
magic.
is the G, by the way, does that have a Masonic reference?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're already figuring out this is all theater because they actually, let me quote this real fast. It says, Tate walked over to Tristan and Iggy, and unbeknownst to him, we could still hear them on the microphone. What are you doing?
That's me, by the way. That is this Tristan right here.
Oh, okay.
That's me. I was there.
What are you doing? This is crazy. Iggy was complaining to Andrew. He didn't appear to be happy with the idea of this test. Don't worry, bro. It's professional. We have ambulances. It's going to be fine, Tate replied, chuckling. So they're putting on this play for the guys. He said they were speaking with a performative energy, and some of the men nearby started to notice. Iggy stormed away from Tate and the generals, continuing to complain about the test and that Tate was endangering the members. Tristan whispered in Tate's ear, Iggy is so good. Tate responded with a concealed smile. That's because Iggy is effing Hollywood, bro.
What does that mean?
So
Wait,
they're
but these
already
guys
putting
could
on,
hear this? Like they could that's weird that they could hear them whispering.
because they didn't know their microphones were still on. But
Oh,
they
okay.
were like having an argument like, you can't do this to the war room guys, just throw them in a cage with a professional fighter, they're gonna get injured or whatever. And they're just like having this fake argument about,
Yeah.
right? So it's all theater. What?
What's all theater? So they weren't really fighting people?
They do, but they're just like
They were
hyping
doing
up.
it to like hype up, it's like if you're gonna I don't know, you're like trying to hype up your 6-year-old about, you're like talking like, I don't know if the kids can have ice cream. Like they've been really, I don't know if they've been good. They haven't done their chores. Like you're like good cop, bad copying or something. It sounds like that's what they're doing. Like
Yeah, that's exactly what
performing
they're doing.
for the guys, which that's pretty gay. Also, pretty gay. Gotta say.
So wait, but there really were
Yeah.
cage matches?
Yeah.
And there really were ambulances, or was he joking?
There were ambulances.
Okay.
Yeah. So this test was a fight. And after they go through this guided meditation by Iggy, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a second, all the guys come out saying that their mind had been shifted fundamentally and what was bad before is now good.
Like
After they go
universally?
through the test and the NLP guided meditation by Iggy, they're coming out and they're saying that their mind has shifted fundamentally and what was bad before is now good in their mind.
Who says that?
The
Tate says
guys who
that?
going through the war room test.
Well, so I mean, that sounds like a very universalized statement. It just sounds kind of like, what do you like? Yeah, what do you mean, like everything?
That's just what they're saying. Like now
Yeah,
their
yeah,
morals
it's
are
interesting statement.
inverted,
Yeah,
right? They're
their
like,
whole
we
world is
thought this
inverted.
was
Yeah,
bad, but now it's good.
like we thought the acting was bad, but now we think it's good.
So what else? Oh, and then there's these weird characters that come in. Guy came Alpha Wolf, who was Canadian intelligence and also Hollywood. And
That's when I
That's what my
showed.
name would be in
That's
the
when I
war.
showed
Alpha
up.
Wolf,
yes, Alpha.
Sigma Wolf. I'll be Sigma Wolf, and I yeah, just walk in, go ow,
Howl.
So
and all the bros, all my bros start going, oh, oh,
ow,
yep, that's how it goes. Sigma Wolf's here. Whoa.
I'm a Omega Wolf. Okay, so Alpha Wolf.
I'm one of those wolves from Twilight. That that one guy
Twilight
from Twilight.
Wolf.
Alpha Wolf claimed to have worked for Canadian intelligence, once enduring torture at the hands of his enemies. He recounted a story about working as an extra on Michael Bay films several times throughout the day.
What?
Yes.
This sounds like people just making up stories.
These are
There's a bunch
generals
of
of the
grifters.
war room. Alpha Wolf, Ziggy, not Ziggy, Iggy, and
An extra from a Michael Bay film. Oh yeah, I was tortured in North Korea, and I'm here to tell my story.
well, it's interesting that they're coming out of Hollywood because part of their teachings is custom made reality. Okay. And they actually
Ah,
taught this.
that
So they
makes
say
sense.
we're launching the War Rooms Fight Club. Um, the war room leaders weren't just teaching men to bring their action hero fantasy to life, they were telling them to distrust and bend any reality in which the fantasy wasn't true. In fact, they would later call this tailoring company custom made reality.
So this is like Maya Hindu type stuff,
Yeah.
or Carl Jung stuff, where I project my reality by willing it.
And that's why they're always
Manifesting,
posting
bro.
lies about their court case
Manifesting,
and
dude.
stuff. They're
We're
manifesting.
gonna manifest
Yeah.
destiny.
Yeah, and you can see that he does I think he's talked about self-hypnosis and how a lot of his stuff comes down to self-hypnosis. And you watch his videos, you look at the way he posts, it all reads like marketing copy and self-hypnosis of like, I am the most desirable man in the world. That'll
Oh,
be
this
like the
Yeah.
is
start of a tweet.
Yeah.
like
And
that
then
Saturday Night Live character that was used to be making fun of like the positive thinking stuff. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm good
like
enough,
90s
I'm
SNL.
smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, but
Yeah.
you're supposed to in that positive thinking, like you're supposed to repeat these things to make it manifest.
And well, that's what he does though with trying to like live edit reality too on Twitter. It's just amazing that some of these people who actually are influential seem to like buy into it. Like even like the Mario and some of these guys. I think a lot of the people who he gets to promote them are strictly in it for the money. But
Mm-hmm.
it does. I mean, he fools people. People actually buy it.
Well, Iggy says, my operations are beyond all of your comprehension. He thinks he's an expert at creating tailor-made reality, and his ability to do that in his own life is something that can be replicated and taught. And they have learned how to rewrite the matrix, and that's something that all the men can learn. So they are Neo coding the matrix to their reality now. Tate has the keys to what is real and what is false. Everything in the external world is lies and conspiracy. Only Iggy and Tate and their generals can teach you how to, get in between the codes and make whatever's real.
I didn't realize how. I mean, it always seemed like he had kind of a cult thing going on in his inner circle, and I've seen some of the videos that they've edited where they do these theatrical seance-looking things with the war room guys. But
Mm-hmm.
this really legit is kind of like
No,
a
and
cult.
it's this is all kind of from Iggy.
Yes.
Okay, and what is his background? Quote Hollywood. What does that
It-
mean? Like he used to be in films, or
um,
didn't
that
know?
Iggy comes up in like 2 seconds. So let me get through this. So Tate as he becomes more famous, more girls come out to say that he has assaulted them in some way, even going back to like when he was living in London. And the cops in Luton in London believe that he's guilty, but they can't really do anything. Tate launches the real world using the Matrix as the enemy.
The real world.
Yeah, the real world is the another war room. So it's another online thing. That's where you can learn like power pressure washing and lawn mowing and like all the secrets to wealth,
But
right?
like in the Matrix, though, like rewriting the code.
Wait a minute. So, so I learned how to become like a paper boy.
Yeah.
You can also learn how to post Tate videos on TikTok.
Okay.
It's just like high level stuff, though.
Right,
It's
listen
not.
to this.
It's like a new level.
But so I thought I was gonna be a god that could rewrite the Matrix.
No, you're.
That was happening.
Yeah, you are. No, look, dude.
Pressure.
You have to be patient, Jay. You're so freaking impatient, dude. First things first.
Look,
You have to first
Bitcoin
become a
Millions
god.
at? I'm still pressure washing.
No, yeah. First, you have to become a god that mows lawns and posts Tate videos and recruits 14-year-old boys into the real world. Then you can become a god that can rewrite reality. But you have to do the basics first, man. You know, walk before you run.
Don't you get it?
It's just like pressure wash. Sounds like the most like it's
You're
like
so negative, bro. You just don't. You have no work ethic. That's your problem.
You know, it's like
everything's been given to you.
It's those ads from the
silver
80s,
platter.
like where Sally Struthers would come on and she would be like, if you didn't get a high school degree, don't worry, you can get certified in ITT Tech
You
to learn HVCR repair.
This is the ITT Tech of like 14-year-old Manosphere world.
But this is even more insane because it's like you're not just getting a degree to become a VCR repairman. It's like you're going to become a god through pressure washing and VCR repair.
Bro, no, you don't get it, Jay. Come on, just stop being negative. Just sign up. Trust me. You have to sign up, bro.
This is like, did these guys sign up because they thought it was so funny, or like it sounds like comedy?
Bro, why'd you take your glasses? I knew when you took your glasses off that you're gonna get all negative and go against the
Because
vibe here.
I have boomer eyes and I need my glasses to see, so I can't wear two glasses.
How are you gonna break out of the Matrix if you can't wear freaking glasses or do the hand signals? My goodness.
Okay, go ahead.
He's not one of us.
Tristan, he can't stay all night because he's
okay. Let's see. The real world. Tate's new online university platform. Talk about making the followers rich. The screen was taken over by falling green computer code and the words "the Matrix attacks." So then they start talking about how fake all of this stuff is. It says hundreds of newlywed Instagram accounts posted a series of videos and images of Tate in Dubai, Tate lounging on a pool, on a yacht, being shown exotic animal collections, posing with a boa constrictor, buying a new sports car, diving into a plunge pool, all the Bugattis, like all this Myron's yacht crap, right? Remember Myron from Fresh and Fit, his booze cruise yacht?
Did Tate go on that?
No,
it's not a yacht. It's a ferry.
It's like the ferry that brings you. They bring you a car.
It's a booze cruise ferry. It's not.
They rented. They rented a party bus.
Advertising, come hang out with millionaires and beautiful women on my yacht, and it was a booze cruise with like baloney and.
It was OnlyFans girls, not beautiful.
Yes. And Myron was trying to flirt, and they're like,
these are high value OnlyFans
and he's
girls,
like,
Jack.
"Wait, come back. Where are you going? Come back. Why are you leaving?" Okay, anyway.
Amazing.
So Tate's doing this stuff. He's doing the Myron's yacht. He's getting all of these like photo ops, but none of them look happy. And all the girls are hired. It says in another video, the Tate brothers attended an event on a yacht with the war room leaders, did archery, but instead of arrows, they had suction cup thingies. Like everyone else in the videos, everybody had been procured. Once everyone was done filming, they sat down and scrolled on their phone. No one looked happy. So it's all for show. And this is kind of when he goes to Dubai and tries to like be the anti TRANN action hero and starts talking to can I say that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, he starts talking to Muhammad Hijab
Can you say him?
I don't.
He who shall not be named, Muhammad Hijab.
That idiot.
Oh, but you can't say, the thing is, if you say it 3 times in the mirror, you don't have to
He
worry
will
about just
appeal
like
to
Oh, okay, so
on YouTube. It's
be
fine on
careful.
YouTube, but in the mirror 3 times, don't do that. It's really dangerous.
And in a weird twist, they were endorsed by the Taliban when they tweeted they were worried about his freedom and hashtag free Tate. The first time he was in trouble, the Taliban was like, "Oh no, not our Tate."
Wait, wasn't that Miles, Lord Miles was running that account? That was like a fake Taliban account that he made or something.
Oh,
Was that
really?
it?
I don't
I
know.
thought
There's an
I
article
thought
in
somebody.
Newsweek about Taliban worried about Andrew Tate. They asked for his freedom. So,
Yeah, but Newsweek
Oh,
falls for stuff all the time.
oh,
I
okay.
think it might be fake, but I mean,
they might have got baited into thinking that of a troll account, but
but
that
what
would
was
be
the
kind of
And
funny.
this is the first time he goes off with that. The Matrix is attacking me stuff, and whoa,
but
doing
what
the
was
diamond symbol to the camera. Remember that?
but what was the is this the first encounter in this book with Islam with a job?
Yeah, yeah. When he goes to Dubai and he says I'm converting, and he
Yeah.
talks to Muhammad Hijab.
Okay.
So Andrew goes to the Islam, and Tristan goes to the Christian, supposedly side.
Well, Tristan says he's Christian, but consistently demonstrates total ignorance about anything concerning even any Christian tradition. I
All of
think
this is
he,
theater. That's why.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Andrew, did they mention how Andrew had said in the past, like, if I ever move back to the UK, he made a tweet. If I ever move back to the UK, I'm just going to convert to Islam because you can't get accused of any of like RAP stuff against women, and you
Well,
can do
They
whatever
said
you
they
want as
had
a Muslim.
that it was so corrupt that they felt like they could get away with stuff.
Yeah,
And
if you're a
they
Muslim,
made
you don't get in trouble in England. So he's like, I'll just
yeah.
convert.
yeah.
But then in the last 6 to 8 months, the Muslims have gotten wind of all of his weird contradictory
Yeah.
statements that are like shirk.
They got sick of all the haram. Like he says he's a Muslim and then does constant haram stuff. Tells people, I mean, right when he converted, he was making tweets like, worship me. I
Yeah,
am.
like he's God. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think now they realize it's a grift.
Well,
Some
not
of them.
before they have built this little micro army, they call them. All of the War Room people and Tate fans have the same look, same mannerisms, muscular, perfect posture, speaking in short, terse sentences, as the War Room instructs, domineering body language and formal attire. It was though an army of robots had been unleashed.
All you needed all this time was a high value hat.
Yes. So now we're talking about the largest grooming network in the world, the War Room, in the real world. And one of the War Room's most senior generals is a guy named Jonathan Bowe, who is called the Money Pilot, who was an actual pilot. And he is called the right hand of Wudan. So,
That's like
meanwhile,
the only guy with an actual job in all of the war
yes.
room. Some pilot loser.
Meanwhile, he's saying what you just said. Tate is saying he's one of God's chosen ones, speaking of himself as a religious prophet and ex-pornographer, protecting the world from evil as he's still teaching the course on.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
marketing content, like everything. It's just
But
constant.
he's our guy, bro. He says stuff that we vaguely agree with. So we have to
Yeah.
defend him to the death. He says stuff that, we say, so we have to pretend he's based. It's okay.
Yeah. He says he's one of God's chosen ones. He's a religious prophet, blah, blah, blah. He's like,
Was this when he was putting up pictures of himself as Jesus on
yeah.
the cross?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says most people understand I'm a force for good, and hit pieces don't really work because of the mainstream matrix mechanisms of the media have lost all credibility.
We destroyed the Matrix.
Yeah.
We almost destroyed the Matrix, but they're really mad. They're going to persecute him now.
Right.
They're going to say that he did these crimes that he admitted to in videos and bragged about for years, and they're going to make up fake crimes and prosecute him for those. But he was really just lying and pretending he did those crimes when he bragged about them for years in videos. It's okay.
Right. And at this point, he's saying, I am the culture. He thinks that he drives like literally pop culture and what is important. And people are playing into this because people are flying out to Romania all the time to interview him. He's on all of the top shows. So
That was sad. That was sad. A lot of people did seem to get roped into defending him at the time. That
mhm.
was really pathetic.
Tristan, in your opinion, how much longer do you think there will be big name defenders, or do you think that will die away?
I don't. That's what I'm wondering now. I feel at this point because I've looked so deeply into the case, right? Like I've done several streams on this. I did the stream recently with Nathan, the guy who runs Milk Bar TV, um, and Common Sense Skeptic. Like we've gone so deep into just the mountains of evidence that these idiots put forward, bragging about their crimes. To me, it's so obvious that these dudes belong in prison. I mean, even without the trafficking stuff, I mean, the dude's he's a producer of like smut, right? Like these are cornographers, right? Like I want these people in prison regardless of if they were involved in these other aspects of it. But I think it's abundantly clear
Well,
that they're guilty.
it gets
So
even
I don't know
darker.
how long it'll.
And I want you to piggyback after we talk about Iggy talking about this, what you were talking about on InfoWars today.
Will we need to do a part two, or 'cause
No,
I don't know. I don't know if okay.
yeah. So they're saying the first thing that stood out was the idea of using Tate's PhD course to recruit women for webcam. That held the significant place in the war room. Iggy spoke with reverence. He says, PhD is the prescription, the war room is the answer, and claiming that Andrew and the PhD had brought the entire red pill arc under wraps. And this is what all of the red pill stuff they think is funneling towards them. They say actually the PhD is about making pussy to get us millions. They weren't just talking about it, they were putting it into action in their lives and believed it was having results. One member wrote, my D game is improved massively following the war room. We'll get a bottom bitch when I finish moving to a new country and get her on lockdown. Throughout the chat logs, war room members solicited and gave advice how to recruit, train, and financially exploit future girlfriends in the online sex industry.
So this is like a watered down version of Crowley's Create Your Own Cult.
Yeah.
Because the OTO taught Gerald Gardner to create a cult, L. Ron Hubbard to create a cult, a bunch of other people who graduated to go create their own cults.
Mm-hmm.
This is like Iggy's watered down version of that.
Yeah. So according to War Room thinking, women who obeyed the first demand would be more susceptible to manipulation and eventually to working on webcam or OnlyFans. In asking Matt to bring him a box of chocolates, that's the author. So when they said, can we come give you an interview? He's like, yeah, bring me a box of chocolates. And that's just like a psychological trick to see how much he can get you to do for him. He says,
Listen, go get me some chocolates before we talk again.
I got one for you, Jamie. Can you make me an espresso, please?
Oh!
So that's to test your obedience.
I taught him everything he knows. I taught him that in the war room.
Oh,
Bugatti. That's how I locked Jamie down, was espressos.
Dang
it. It's the repetition, the mind control device of pronouncing the words slightly incorrect.
Espressos now.
Espresso.
Well, listen, he said there are certain trials or trainings you can put your new girlfriends through to make them more submissive and therefore more likely to webcam for you. Laundry, buying things for them, their own money, buying things for Andrew with their own money, and preparing his meals. They said men referred to these tasks as missions, and a message from Iggy hinted at the purpose of the missions. G's got to keep their women occupied with tasks. Missions to keep them busy and proving their devotion. A chase cycle consists of setting the mission, she completes the mission, you reward her appropriately. The mission can be make me a sandwich, pick up my cleaning, make me espresso. He said, yes, this is Pavlovian conditioning.
Yes. I was gonna say it's just Pavlovian conditioning your chicks.
I was like, dang.
He says, yes, this is Pavlovian. Yes, this is operant conditioning. Yes, this is how you train dogs. Deal with it. And a big part of this is also BDSM. So that's what, like, the submission comes back into play.
But that's what Iggy was like obsessed with, right? He's some weirdo BDSM fetishist or something,
listen,
right?
Iggy and the Money Pilot were sharing tips on BDSM practices. Some men shared photos of severe bruising on intimate areas of their women's skin. And so this is all categorized and weaponized narcissism. And this is exactly what a complete malignant narcissist would do. He says, we deliberately reduce attention to know if she chases. They set up a coffee date and execute a move to find out if she is willing to pay for the coffee and serve us. After that, it becomes a series of gradual steps to remove her entire support structure from her life. We punish her for transgression, real or imagined, by having her get our name tattooed on her, leaving her family, her apartment, her town, her country, start
She has to
webcamming.
get both of the guys' names, like Iggy and the other
You have
guy.
to get Iggy's
Sure.
face tattooed on you as like the
Like
final
a
one.
full bearded Iggy
Yes.
tattoo all
Yeah,
across.
with his kimono and everything. You have a back piece with like Iggy, like flowing kimono.
You have to
Yeah.
get a giant Iggy face
Very
on your calf, on the back of your
I
calf.
want it around
Yeah.
my gut.
Tramp stamp, like a lower back tattoo of Iggy.
So he said, here's something you guys need to hear out loud because it can never be said. The PhD test never ends. She has to prove it every day and pass it every night. And like every test, it gets harder and more difficult with each level. This is the way of Wudan. This is the white path. So the way of
It's the way
Wudan
of
is
Wudan.
literally weaponized narcissism, overtly trying to get women to be your slave. Okay.
That's so. And what's crazy because it's like all these little cults really, they're just, they find little, they all use the same methods, and it's just kind of pumping out more little control freak, demonic, narcissistic people.
And it appeals to a nerdy single guy who thinks that, oh, these are all tricks and techniques and tactics. If I master them, I can get what I want.
I can get some pussy.
Right.
Make
Well,
pussy.
having a woman to them is like it's just an achievement that you unlock like in a video game. So you have to beat the boss of their psyche to, actually control them and get what you want from them.
Well,
There's
I got the cheat codes to get you, so it works. So why are you
I know.
fussing about it?
He
if you keep
offered
saying stuff like that, you're
conditions.
gonna have to have her make you like 10 espressos tonight, bro. You
That's
guys
not fair.
Jamie, make me an espresso.
So the desired level of submission is summarized as female sexual slavery, and they are preparing for the next iteration of the PhD. We don't know what that's going to be yet. So let's talk about Iggy for a second, and then we'll be done.
This is again why Islam is like because master slave,
Right. So the psychology of Iggy Semmelweis, he says, welcome to the war room. In many of his tweets, Iggy appeared to be talking about his own wife, who he bragged worked for him on webcam. Another tweet read, G's recognize seduction, sex, and women as nothing more than tools to be utilized in order to build men's wealth. That is the understanding of the true red pill. He also is talking about Edward Bernays. So he learned a lot of propaganda and public relations from Bernays. And he calls himself the master of spells and shadows.
Iggy?
Yeah. He's the order of the King Cobra, keeper of the Scarlet Citadel. Inside the war room of Wudan, I will to you greatness as I show you ways to unlock your potential beyond imagination. Now, they looked up what the Scarlet Citadel was. Can you guess?
It's like the Red Tent or
No.
something. What is that?
Listen, okay. A 1933 fantasy short story by Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan Barbarian universe, talks about a story which also turned into a popular edition of the game Dungeons and Dragons.
So just something he ripped off of D&D.
Yes,
right?
featured Conan, aka the Cobra King, and curiously, a dark wizard called Sotholanti, who in the graphic novels and fan art depicted him, bore a striking resemblance to Iggy. Sotholanti was the keeper of the Scarlet Citadel, which was a dungeon below his castle where he tortured his victims and created scrolls out of their skin.
So nerd, like serial killer, like
Yes.
Yeah.
inner core is
Control
like-
freak nerd stuff.
We've
Yeah,
literally, yeah.
the inner core is Jeffrey Badonkadonk nerd stuff.
And Dahmer type.
That's who Jeffrey
Yeah.
Badonkadonk is.
Oh. I thought
What, you don't know Jeffrey?
Jeffrey.
Well, how many serial killers are named Jeffrey?
You're right.
It's like Jeffrey Dahmer meets
Badonkadonk because
Jeffrey.
he's gay and he eats
Jeffrey Big
butts.
F.
Okay.
Big,
So-
what's your Jeffrey Dahmer meets Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
meets
Tuatha,
Dungeons and Dragons.
what's his name? Sotholanti also wore a ring with a cobra's head and fangs, which produced venom when he poisoned his adversaries. That's where you get the cobra Tate is Master Cobra or whatever after this stupid sci-fi character who skins women alive. They all wear cobra rings on the fingers of the men who groomed these two girls they're in contact with, and images of them online. He says in the story of this wizard, men said that he had a whole library of dark works bound in skin flayed from living human victims, and that in nameless pits below the hill whereon his palace sat, he trafficked with the powers of darkness, trading screaming girl slaves for unholy secrets. He was the real ruler of Koth. This is the character that Iggy has based his entire persona on. A cosmic slave trader of women who...
Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He says the comic book adaptation of the Scarlet Citadel was filled with images of almost naked women chained to stones inside dark citadels and hyper-masculine men wielding axes in a kind of pastiche of some unknown 1970s heavy metal sexualized fantasy. Large portions of the Conan Barbarian books that Howard wrote focus on Conan or other rivaling characters stealing each other's harems.
Conan is king of thieves.
Right?
Yeah.
What is good in life, Iggy?
To hit the just to what is it? To hit the destruction of your enemies, to hit the
Crush your,
the
crush your
lam-
enemies
the
and hear the
women.
lamentations of the women.
Yeah.
So this is Wudan, is the mountain or the hill where the palace of this sorcerer sat, where he has all these trafficked girls. Now, my Iggy, his real name is Miles Sonkin, and he learned high probability selling and moved to Japan to study martial arts. So he combined this high probability selling, which is like a filtration process where you only sell to people who you want. Like, you ask them a bunch of questions, and if anything's negative, you're like, next, and you just keep on moving until you find somebody
Just
agreeable.
like marketing gimmicks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he combined this technique with pickup artists and neurolinguistic programming, and he claimed he studied directly under one of the founders of NLP named Richard Bandler. And we're talking about Iggy, who's aka Miles Sonkin.
Is he a actual Kabbalist?
He calls himself the master of spells and shadows and the greatest hypnotist in the world. He founded Date Masters under the name Douglas Hall and wrote How to Meet More Women. He ran seminars on how to hook up with women overseas. So there's your passport, bros. Iggy is not good looking, but he thinks that Tate is. And so Tate is the perfect like beard for this underground magical black magic thing he's running. And you're going to freak out on this, Tristan. Guess what?
I'm kind of freaked out about the Bandler thing because, like, he was a UCSC professor, Bandler, and I mean, I don't know. I went to UCSC, and he's like a Northern California, UCSC connected guy. And they developed NLP at University of California, Santa Cruz, and then they were all involved with what's his name? Who's that? The pimp gang guy. Oh my goodness,
Gangnam Style?
no, the guy that he went to prison in the 70s and he came out and he what was that guy's name?
Freeway.
Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. Keep going. It'll come to me in a minute.
Okay, check this out. In the 1980s, Miles had been a member of a fairly notorious cult, the Rajneesh movement, an Indian-based meditation cult, perhaps best known today for featuring in the 2018 Netflix series Wild Wild Country. It's
So
All roads lead to Osho. Jay started this out talking about Osho.
You're saying Iggy was in Osho?
Yes.
Okay.
So Iggy is part of Osho, including the sexual abuse of his followers. He's trying to...
This is probably why Roosh was saying in 2018-19 to study Osho.
Yeah, so Mr. Boogle Whistle himself, do it.
Can't say it.
Boogle Whistle.
Booger whistle.
We all know.
Is who influenced freaking Iggy to influence freaking Tate to influence freaking every 14-year-old kid with a cell phone. He said they are intentionally referring it to as Tateism. Some people who know Iggy say he never sleeps, he's strange, he scares me. He has very dark ideas, to be honest with you. I think he might be a Satanist. According to some war room members, Iggy saw women as the root of evil in the world, referring to them as dragons that must be tamed. Now, does that sound familiar?
To what?
Social media?
Dungeons and Dragons.
What?
Pearl says that all the time.
I don't follow pearls.
Dragons?
Some people say women are the chaos dragons and all of this. So,
Saying Pearl says that?
yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So
Pearl's kind of like dragon sized, you know. She's like,
when you join the war room, you're presented with a document entitled the Survival Scrolls, which opened a reading list curated by him to reprogram readers' brains. This included classic Manosphere titles as The Predatory Female and The Manipulated Man. And they talk about how G's are men of purpose and will, and all women are merely dragons chasing them. G's understand this reality and use their power and purpose to bend dragons to their will and give them over, to give over their hoards of treasure while never letting the dragons catch them.
So it's another way to take one of man's basic desires, the desire for sex and companionship, and turn it into kind of an online e-marketing cult type thing.
Yes. And so they're using Tate to create a cult of radicalized men. Members refer to Iggy as Merlin, training an army of King Arthurs. And 3 of the survival scrolls relate to BDSM. Are you surprised?
What are the survival scrolls?
Well, his reading list, the predatory female, manipulated man, all of these Manosphere books.
So it's like we're in a Dungeons and Dragons adventure and we got to get the scrolls.
Yes, Iggy thinks he's waging a war that will tear the clown world apart and subjugate all women under the mountain of Wudan as sex slaves. And if you don't agree with this, you have worm DNA. He says the distinction between us and them is the war room versus the worms or the clown world.
What's worm DNA?
Anyone who doesn't subscribe to their real world is the loser.
I understand, but does he literally think it's like a genetic thing?
I don't know.
Okay.
He says Iggy's motivation was clear. It came from a desire for power and a genuine disdain for women. He really does see women as different from men, as less than men. They're dragons, and he has a further scroll entitled How to Train Your Dragon. Even if you're not interested in BDSM or anal, you will still want to read Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns, the ultimate guide to anal sex for women, because they train you in setting up the female sexual slavery frames and the female sexual progressions.
You probably aren't going to be able to talk about that on YouTube.
yeah, you might want to mute that word on YouTube. You might get. That's
word?
disgusting, though.
ANL.
That's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is disgusting.
So, this is what you will get when you sign up for Tate's course.
You get these
books on ANAL.
These elder scrolls.
Literally, how to mind control women using ANAL. Scrolls for the Sexual Adventurer has 3 works relating to BDSM, and they are required for reading for anyone on God mode.
Did they come in actual scroll format, like I roll?
Not to bring it back to the Tate trials. I think it's the second indictment that's coming. The second trial coming in Romania. There's mention of that specific act being performed with a 15-year-old.
Yikes.
With I think that's Andrew, not Tristan, but Tristan and Andrew have both bragged about publicly about seeking such experiences with young girls, and so
this is what's going on in the culture war, and social media is creating all these mini Tates. I know he's not as popular as he once was, but it's still the brainworms, and they chant phrases like "trust in Tate" and "such is the way of Wudan," and Tate and his generals teach how to go viral online. And they talk about outrage addiction, right? And rage bait. War room members include many alt-right and far-right. One named Ivan Thorne, who calls himself Dark Triad Man. So they're enveloping sociopathy into this, narcissism, psychopathy. They said Tate keeps a chapel of Wudan in his house for to use for magic, and it's the closest terrestrial representation of Wudan Mountain.
So they created their own religion.
Yes.
Okay.
See, we are almost to the end. They talk about the 9 laws, which is that sounds like what you were gonna explain. Do you want to talk about that real fast?
How would that work? What is
Well, the
why
order of
nine?
the 9, whatever's.
Well, I mean,
Order of the 9 angles.
because it's 9 laws doesn't necessarily mean that it's related to that stuff.
I know, but I just thought that would be a good segue into.
Yeah, so basically today we talked about the history of some of these online cults that are used to groom disaffected, alienated young men, especially. It seems to, I mean, it's not restricted obviously with the recent Rupnow girl to being men, but most of the time it's young guys that are really susceptible to this, who are lonely and then addicted to certain online things, and they get sort of funneled into these different groups and figures through forums and whatnot online. In this case, it wasn't the Tates. We were talking about the Order of 9 Angles, which is a online satanic group that's kind of all over the place. Another group called the 764 group. Terrorgram, which is all the networks on Telegram that are terror focused and promoting, and the Incel Forum. And it looks like the Incel Forum itself was sort of created. I'm not sure when it was created, but it was really created as a kind of a honeypot to find these types of patsies to do these actions. So it's a very similar model in the sense of like finding dumb, young, idealistic, susceptible, hurt people that you can manipulate and, grift off of. And then in some cases, entrap them, get them to do terror actions and unaliving and so forth. And some of the recent shooters have actually been connected to and have been readers of this material. One of these groups, for example, one of the Ukrainian neo-in cults was called Maniac Murder Cult. And it was run by a Ukrainian guy, and that was taken over by a Georgian guy, George of the country. And they put out this Haters Handbook. And the Haters Handbook is kind of this manual of how to engage in these actions, not get caught, on and on and on. So these things really do exist, but the radicalizing of everything in the last few years through all of the intentional hatred, rage baiting, the radicalizing is funneling more and more people into these groups that are used for geopolitical means, for mind control, for all kinds of stuff.
It's just like kind of make the neo Edwards you want to see in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, well, we didn't have this problem, but let's make it. Let's just force. And it's you and I have talked about this when we talked about cults before. You and I, Jay, we did quite a few fun streams on these cults, including Osho,
Yeah.
and then some of the internet cults. And I remember talking about just like the nature of the internet and social media. It's like a giant cult making machine
Exactly.
that allows anybody to just start their own cult. So,
Micro cult.
yeah. So, of course, this is being weaponized, being, directed in certain ways where applicable for political purposes, for propaganda purposes. And, yeah, it's like if
And
it's very easy to find a patsy out there.
And that's why people can't just adjust their worldview with new information, and they shut out all like truth when it comes to Tates and stuff, because they've already wrapped up their entire like personality into this cult, and so they don't want to hear anything negative about it. One more notable thing in this chapter was they have some far right Christians in the war room who think that this stuff is compatible with Christianity because women actually want to be slaves to varying degrees.
It's biblical, bro.
Yeah.
My pastor Pastor Semmelweis told me it's
He
actually a
said
biblical concept.
a guy named Jay Stang from Oath Keepers. He says,
Hey, Stang. That sounds like
publicly avowed
such a fake
Christian.
name.
Despite this, he seemed to believe his religion could coexist with the new worldview because women want to be slaves anyway. Last chapter is about how they actually became super prolific online. He said, people think Tate just became famous, but there's an art to it. We were able to make him famous by using a deep understanding of what social media algorithms respond to and create content that triggered that perfectly. So they met up with this guy who used to work for Tate, who was like a piece of work himself. He was like a
Oh, that Asian guy, right? I
no,
think I've seen the interview with him.
his name's Eli. He just calls himself Eli, but he was a devotee of Liver King. So all he did was
Tristan knows all about that guy. They used to work together very closely.
That's actually my former, my
Who's your
previous
mentor? Your
internet dad
mentor.
was Liver King.
Your
Yeah.
mentor, basically.
My new internet dad is Tate, but he's my previous internet dad.
Yeah.
So Eli only ate oysters, minced beef, raw beef, and washed it down with unpasteurized milk and Red Bull. Eli
Red Bull and raw milk.
Yeah.
That's where, yeah.
Eli had not brushed his teeth in 2 years.
Based.
He
So
stinks,
based.
but this is the guy who figured out how to get famous with algorithms. He says, given that's run by a guy who pretends to be a wizard and another guy who pretends to be a character from the Matrix, don't you think this is all a bit cringe? So he left, he recognized it was a cult, even though he still eats like raw oysters. And
He's like, this is cringe. I haven't brushed my teeth
Yeah,
in 2 years, and I
yes.
think Liver King is based, but this is super cringe.
He said, we played into the insecurities of men. Meaning when you saw Tate with a Bugatti, or you saw him calling you a brokey, he made you believe that the ideal you needed to become in order to get a woman in your life was like Tate. So he said him and cousin Luke hired a crew of videographers to get B-roll of the brothers and filmed Andrew giving his take on as many different topics as they could imagine. The marketing team prioritized controversial and aggressive views because that's what most social media algorithms prefer. The videos are edited for maximal manipulation of the viewer's emotions through music, data analysis
This is what I was thinking. Yeah.
Data analysis of viewers' responses, and pseudoscientific beliefs about hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming. The formula depended on clip length, editing style, hook, power, energy, crescendo, eye direction, and it all triggered the algorithm perfectly. This got them 1.1 billion views over time.
So he had good PR marketing strategy.
Yes. So they knew what to tell Tate to say and like how to film him to get the maximum algo pushing. And they have this thing called DNG where they call everybody a dork, nerd, or geek that doesn't agree with them. So if you ever see Tate people responding to you and they call you a dork, a nerd, or a geek, this is a part of their formula. It's called the DNG.
DNG, Dungeons and
Yes.
Dragons. It all goes back to Dungeons and Dragons.
He says, we have a PR campaign team. We look for the media, whether positive or negative, that mentions Tate and send people to comment on it from very real looking accounts. The campaign began encouraging people to distrust institution and reality itself. Lots of content describing the Matrix and conspiracy to silence Tate brothers appeared on social media around the time of their arrest. Cousin Luke released a statement saying the Matrix has a three-phase plan to get rid of Tate. First, he just tweeted this. You sent me this, right?
Yeah.
The Matrix 3-phase plan to get rid of Tate. First, they would try to cancel him. Then they would jail him. Then they would do with him what they did with Julian Assange, and all else failed, they would unalive him like E. Epstein.
Oh yeah, because the Matrix just had to get rid of Epstein because he was fighting the Matrix just like Tate.
So
Papa Epstein.
it's not that he had all these great ideas and he just like struck a chord with the youth of America. This is like literally
marketing gimmicks.
Black magic, techno-pagan wizard crap, right? Social media.
It's funny because it all happened at the same time as Liver King too. Now I'm thinking about Liver King, which is another little internet cult figure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen him now. He's completely off his rocker. He's like schizo.
I think
it's really sad.
You or somebody sent a video.
I think I sent you. Yeah, I think I might have sent you a couple clips. Yeah, he's like totally schizo. I think he's just lost his whole life. I think he lost his family. It seems. Yeah,
Did
it's sad.
you kind of sense early on when you first started seeing him like that it was fraudulent, or did you kind of get
Oh,
him?
for sure. You could always tell that it was fraud, but I called early on that he was making himself mentally ill with like the way that he was behaving and like
Really?
the amount of posting he was doing in character. And I made a post about this. I mean, it's like maybe 3 years ago about how everything this guy was doing was pointing towards a total psychotic breakdown because he
Mm.
started going to shamans and stuff, and he was
Oh,
bringing his wife and kids, and they were going to like Mexico and going and meeting up with some like grifter tourist shaman people, and obviously taking he was talking about taking mushrooms and stuff. But everything about him, even the way his abs looked, you could like that's something that I was worried about with him too. Like the way he held his stomach, he didn't breathe right because he's obsessed. He's so obsessed with seeing his abs that like he's not using his diaphragm to actually breathe. Right? Like to have a healthy, you can be super ripped and really lean, but the way that you're not going to be having like scrunched up six
yeah.
pack because the way you have to breathe, like if you watch even an athlete do like an overhead press, their abs are not all scrunched up like Liver Kings were. People always thought he had ab implants, but I think he was obsessively holding his gut in that way
Hmm.
to make himself look a certain way. Like he
Mhm.
thought you have to look like whatever Ronnie Coleman or Arnold Schwarzenegger pictures, and that's gonna mess with your mind too. Like holding your breath all the time to have abs. Um, Everything about him was like sadly pointing towards, a psychotic break.
Yeah, and this is really damaging people's relationships because Iggy says that, you need to kill your parents in your mind, you need to kill all your relationships, you need to cut off everything like typical cult isolation. And even Eli said, I had a nice life and a fiance before I joined the war room, and now I have nothing and nobody's happy there because the whole thing is about trying to make women into slaves, right? So then the last chapter is about the real mafia shit, the corruption in Romania, what attracted Tate there in the first place, and then the casinos and the scams. So what happens if you win anything at a Tate casino? There's men waiting out back to beat you up and take the money back. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah,
Did he say that, or
it's in
was
the book.
that
Yeah.
okay? But he didn't brag about that, right? That'd be funny if he bragged about it. Like we just steal.
Yeah.
That's in his character to brag about. He can't keep his mouth shut. Like
Really is.
imagine doing like these people that he's doing shady business with. I can't believe they haven't like offed
Not
him or
bad,
something.
yeah.
Doesn't make
Well,
sense.
this whole thing is like a conglomeration of crime bosses in Eastern Europe, and they all have to do with the Tates, and they all have to do with these casinos. So I recommend you guys picking up this book if you want all the extra details that I couldn't get to tonight. And the last little, what did I say? Piece here, epilogue. So, they're saying the things that make a corn addict online is the same things that make a Tate fan or somebody who would want to be joining the war room. They say after signing up for Hustlers and War Room, the more time they spent with these guys, I watched the young, sweet, innocent guy I was completely disappear. I had a girlfriend of 5 years and completely blew up the relationship because I was listening to these guys. I was going to get engaged. I had just become a complete emotionless husk.
Mm.
He said he told us that the men he met on Hustlers courses hated their lives. In fact, in 4 years of reporting on Tate fans and encountering them in public, we have never met a single one who seemed happy. So that's what you
Yeah,
get.
that's just because they're stoic and masculine. So
Oh,
they
yeah, yeah.
they make the soy boys scared because they don't smile at them like a monkey.
Right.
They mew at them.
Have I convinced you not to go to Hustlers, Tate? I mean, Tristan?
I think I won the debate. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I won the debate. Tate's based.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, like my wife is happy as a slave, so I think every wife should be.
What's your overall assessment of this whole thing, Tristan? Like from inception to where it's going? Is it
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to summarize. I think it's pretty emblematic of kind of where I think it's pretty emblematic of how stupid a lot of the so-called dissident political world is. Like your like based Twitter is really just a bunch of
Yeah.
grifters and cokeheads basically. And I mean, this is how it's been since it's been obvious since like 2015, all the Richard Spencer stuff, and it just keeps going in the same cycles. And I think it's sad. It's really sad and strange to see people that are intelligent in other ways seeming to fall for these guys' grift. Um, I mean, even like Tucker had Tate on, and Tucker's done a lot of really great stuff the last couple of years. Um, but yeah, it blows my mind that people don't see through it. And I think the Tates are going to go to prison. It's going to be weird to see who doubles down and it still pretends that they're being persecuted. I think these are some of the stupidest criminals that you could ever imagine. And like I said before, I'm just surprised that some of these mob guys that they were associated with haven't taken them out.
Mm.
Uh, and it wouldn't, I mean, I don't know if the Tates, they've been talking about snitching lately. Like they keep, you can kind of see where their mind is, right? Like the Tates know what's coming. They know that it's likely that DCOT is going to combine these two cases. They also seem to be really worried about snitching at the moment. And I don't know if that has to do with the women like Georgiana and Luana. I don't see why they would maintain loyalty to the Tates and go to prison for who knows how long. I think they're looking at 10, 20 years, these women. The Tates are looking at possibly longer. So it doesn't make sense to me that anybody would stay loyal. I mean, just, looking at it pragmatically from these people's point of view, they should be worried about snitching. And the video that Tate put up the other day, it was this cringe, I think it was yesterday or today, this really cringe staged fake reaction of Andrew is on the computer and Tristan's over there in the kitchen. And he's like, oh, they dropped the case. Case dismissed. And he stands up and they high five each other and like, bro, oh. And Tristan says to Andrew, like, even if they came to me and told me, if you snitch on Andrew, you'll do less time, or if you snitch on Andrew, you won't do any time, I would never snitch. It's like, why would you say that in this video? So they're really, you can see it, their unconscious mind kind of popping through in the things they say. So they're worried about snitching. I don't know what is going to happen with that. Um, or if they're considering doing something like that themselves or trying to cover their own conscience because perhaps they've been, giving some information on guys like Eddie Power, EDY Power. You look up this guy, these are very sketchy people who had, they're probably not super high level guys. These are all low level people that are going to deal with dudes like Tate's, right? These guys are dealing with a few $1 million scams here and there. They're not dealing with, $20 million flows. Like, they're not high level mob type figures. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think long term, yeah, you're gonna see prison time. Maybe the Tates will do some sort of a um, maybe get out of some stuff by feeding information in certain ways. I don't know how that works in Romania. It's like they're just gonna go witness protection program or something. It's not gonna be like that. Get to live the rest of my life as a schnook. I don't think it's gonna be like Goodfellas or Henry Hill just goes into witness protection. But yeah, I think it's all kind of predictable as far as like the phenomenon of the internet, where the problems of feminism and the issues that you're dealing with like the weaponized worldview stuff, there's going to be pushback. And then within the pushback, there's going to be all these little micro cults that pop up. And you saw MGTOW. MGTOW just became the mirror of feminism, right? It's just male feminism, kind of men going their own way. Like, we'll just get our sex bots and get our cummies on the internet and it'll be okay. I think all these little things are just emblematic and symptoms of the greater uh, fall of man that seems to be accelerating, especially with all these distractions and all these like just awful things happening. Like COVID, we wouldn't have Tate if we didn't have all the COVID stuff too. Tate
Mm. Mhm.
rode those waves of what do you like, discontent would be that be the word, the waves of discontent that came with that is bringing people looking for answers. So whereas thank God a lot of people through COVID came to the church, came to the Orthodox Church. I mean, like, who knows how many people found the church through the disillusionment. But sadly, a lot of people, they just find stupid cults or some Discord server where, some guy like Jay is going to radicalize them into, if though some Fed handler finds somebody in a Discord server and gets them to do something stupid or something, that happens too. So, yeah, I think the Tates are just kind of like that. There's some guys who figured out some things about human nature and decided to exploit it in different ways. And I think they've just become more psychopathic through this all and more uh, those delusions of grandeur and stuff. I think they're getting feedback from like the phenomenon that you guys mentioned of the audience feeding into their delusion.
Mm.
And I think they're going to become more ridiculous and unhinged. And hopefully that will turn people away. And I think it is. I think a lot of ex Tate fans are, publicly apologizing for what they've, for like being so resistant against people trying to tell them, look, these are degenerate pornographers. These are not, cool base guys who want to help you. They hate you. The Tates literally hate you. Like, I think well, a lot of the audience needs to recognize that Tate's audience is not loved and cared for by Daddy Tate. No, he's an abusive, like, gross person.
Mhm. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. You are a good example of virtuous masculinity.
Hmm.
So I'm very proud to be married to you and to know you as a friend. And I really thank you guys for doing this. And we had a great time. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. It's an honor. Thank you for the kind words.